Look at that face.
Look at that face. Look at that face. Welcome, everybody, to another live football episode of Tap House and Touchdowns. As always, it's your guy, Bully Rye, and alongside me to do the football shows, as always, my good friend Banker Bill on this special holiday approaching edition of the show. Bill, what's up, bud?
Holiday approaching edition. I like that. That's different. I thought we would just call it the holiday edition, but we're approaching the holidays. So you're being really specific. I dig it.
It's not like we're like at Christmas yet, you know.
We're
like
there. We're there. I mean,
we're about a week away, but Christmas will come and go.
Like a half a week away.
I mean, 2 days. So it's 5 days.
By the time this airs, it'll be the 21st. We're 4 days. Anyway.
All right. Well, it's airing live.
Yeah, true.
On Facebook.com/tapouts and touchdowns. True. Over there on YouTube and on Twitter/X at tapouts and TDs. So it will be airing either way. Let's call it our holiday approaching edition because Christmas will come and go before we get to meet again. But we've still got some football talk to get to. Again, make sure if you are watching live with us on this holiday edition show, that you join the conversation, leave a comment, and we will read it live on the air here. Once again, Tap Outs and Touchdowns football episode leading up to your Christmas holiday. So let's get to it. We saw college bowl season kick off over the weekend with some games, kind of what we expected to see. A big slate of games coming this week and this weekend, including games like the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the Birmingham Bowl, 2 games of which the South Carolina Gamecocks have been to. I've personally been to both, and I prefer Duke's Mayo over Birmingham because it was bitterly cold in Birmingham, Alabama. Bill, are there any games in particular you're looking forward to this week in college football bowl season week 2?
I've got 2. I've got 2 that before we air again, which would be next week, right? I have 2 games on Saturday. So the 2 that I'm looking forward to the most is the Armed Forces Bowl, which is James Madison, who was originally told they weren't going to be able to go bowling.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody got their mind right. Said, yeah. You had too good of a season. Yeah, you can go bowling. They're going to play against Air Force. And if you remember, these are 2 of the last undefeated teams in college football. They both ended up ranked. Air Force got a lot of injuries. They ended up falling out. They actually lost their last 4 straight games. But when they're good, right? James Madison, obviously, they were undefeated for a long time. I didn't even look to see what their current record is, Ryan. But I know
they're 11-1. They lost to App State.
App State. I remember that was the
second last week of the season. Yep.
Yeah. So that's going to be a fun bowl. That's going to be Saturday at 3:30. And then the other one I'm looking for. You know how I feel about late night football. I love the fact that I can be up till 1:30 in the morning and there's still live football on. And that's happening with one of our sort of local teams. Coastal Carolina is playing San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl. That's probably the best bowl if you're not going to a New Year's Six Bowl. Who wouldn't want to go to the Hawaii Bowl, right? I mean, that's freaking awesome. Both teams are 7-5. Both finished the season strong with San Jose State winning their last 6 games. Coastal Carolina didn't figure it out early in the season, started to get a little bit better towards the end. It had a run of 5 wins. They lost their last 2. Unfortunately for them, Grayson McCall, their normal quarterbacks, opted out of this bowl game as he's gone into the transfer portal, but their other backups have played pretty well during the season. So I'm looking forward to that one. That one will be on until about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night.
I'm with you. Listen, you talk about people opting out of bowl games. Caleb Williams will not be playing in the Holiday Bowl.
Of course not.
Number 15 Louisville takes on Southern Cal. You get Texas A&M with a new coaching staff, not quite taking over yet, taking on number 20 Oklahoma State, an old Big 12. I don't know if you call it a rivalry game, but a Big 12, a former Big 12 matchup, getting to go in a bowl game. Those games take place next Wednesday. And I mentioned the Duke's Mayo Bowl, North Carolina, West Virginia, just because I want to see if North Carolina can win a Duke's Mayo Bowl since they're not playing South Carolina in the game. Because we know how it happened, how it last time. Yeah, but I mean, listen, you got some decent teams. Utah plays Northwestern in the Las Vegas Bowl.
Don't care.
Utah. Well, I did because I had Utah. Utah was
they were good at one point.
Yeah. They finished the season 8-4 in the Pac-12. I preseason had them pick to win the Pac-12. I don't think Cam Rising ever saw the field this year.
He did not.
I do believe he's coming back next year, if I'm not mistaken. So you get Duke Again, Duke lost their head football coach to Texas A&M. They're taking on Troy in the Birmingham Bowl. And another ACC team gets to get in the action on Friday night. Georgia taking on UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl. So listen, bunch of glorified exhibitions, but some decent teams with some questionable futures headed into the weekend. And something that I didn't put on here, to early signing period was today.
I know. I was thinking about that as we're sitting here.
Bill, anything stand out to you? I know South Carolina lost commitment to Maryland at the last minute, but I know that commitment lost his father and decided to switch his commitment to go to Maryland to be closer to his mom. We also lost an offensive lineman in the transfer portal today, while we had a huge class with some 5-star guys, a couple of 4-star guys.
17th overall.
Anything in particular stand out to you in the early signing period from what you've gotten to see?
I'll never understand college kids or high school kids. I don't get it. There was a player that the Gators had. He was actually a 4-star defensive back that was one of the Gators' prize recruits and he had been, I think since August, he had been committed to the Gators. He flipped today and went to Texas and went and joined 4 other 4-star defensive backs. I just don't understand that. He's supposedly the best of the 5, but I don't understand where you're going to be like the prize recruit for a pretty big school. Now he's from Texas. That part of it is maybe he wanted to stay home and stay closer to the family, but he had committed to the Gators and he had been committed there for 4 months. I'd love to know his reasoning, what it was, and if maybe it was just I want to stay closer to home. But why commit to the Gators for 4 months if you really wanted to go to Texas? Texas flips him at the last minute. I just don't understand some of that thinking. But of course, I took it a little bit personally. But Gators come home, it looks like, with the 13th best early commit class. There's still some work to do, as their coach says. And you guys did pretty well. 17th is not bad for South Carolina. So like you said, a couple 5-stars. You got a 5-star defensive line. So yeah, if you're paying attention, the rich get richer. The top classes belong to, of course, Georgia, number 1, Alabama, and Oregon. Ugh.
It is what it is. Real quick, if you're here watching with us live, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or otherwise, make sure you leave a comment below and join the conversation as we've got some comments rolling in. Dylan Bates saying that you're going down in fantasy football playoffs this week.
Yeah,
so
bring it on, Dylan.
We'll get to talk about it later on in the show. Volley Polly wants to know why I didn't color the beard, because it's a waste of a $4 can of white spray paint. I don't know what to tell you.
Just give him some time. It'll eventually go white.
Yeah, eventually it'll go white. I got about 20 years for that. Pedro wants to know what exactly goes in for recruits to flip to the other schools. I also don't know what does that. As far as flipping, I mean, it's just a matter of you haven't signed your letter of intent. And that's what it drives me nuts when people want to boast about recruiting the entire offseason in college football. Wait until they sign the dotted line, because they're not recruited. They're not signed until they're signed. And so that's basically it. A verbal means absolutely nothing in college football anymore. You need to sign on the dotted line. And now, a few years ago, when they created this new early signing period, this is the new signing day. This allows your kids to get onto campus in January to get those spring practices in, so that they're already ready come fall practice to acclimate to the rest of the roster. Bill, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I think there's a little bit more that goes on. Like you said, it is really the signing day now, but it's not the last, opportunity for these guys to sign. So there are still some recruits out there. However, I think a lot of the NIL stuff is in play now. A lot of promises are being made, and we'll see what happens. I think that's why you see some of these guys all of a sudden decommit later in the process, because even if you do sign the letter, I think that you still have an opportunity to unsign. I don't know if that's the case. I didn't think it used to be, but I think it is now. So it's a terrible process. The NCAA has really messed this up. It is not good. It's not good.
I was on a local radio show here last week, the Rob Brown Show. I'm going to boast about that show as much as I can, because it's the one sports radio show I listen to. And he posed the question and invited guests on the show to answer the question, what is ruining college football, as long as you could, outline it and define it. And we talked about it on the show. And so that's exactly what I did. NIL and the transfer portal without, what's the word I'm looking for? Without restrictions, without, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes. I can't think of the word. I almost said relegation, but that makes no sense. Without Wow, what's the word we're looking for?
Words are hard.
That's terrible.
Somebody in the comments is going to hit some of the words without regulation.
I got it close.
Regulation.
It was super close. I was doing some, transposition. I can do a transposition. How about that?
Tim Costello in the chat, and commitment is not as nostalgic as it was.
It's not, especially with the transfer portal. I mean, the reality is if you get these guys for 1 year, a good example of this is the Gators signed he was the player of the year for one of the rivals.com. It's one of the other ones though. He was the player of the year in high school football. He led his team to a 12-1 record. He had unbelievable stats. He's 5-star. His name is DJ Lagway. He's going to go to the University of Florida, and I'm not sure he's going to start next year. And if that pisses him off, he's just going to go transfer somewhere. So how are you supposed to feel great about it? I don't understand it. I feel like the players have a lot more leverage than they probably deserve at this point. And they could force the hand of coaches. It's terrible. It's terrible. We've really created a really terrible system. And I really do feel like it's getting to that point where I think we're going to start losing viewership, losing interest in college sports because of what the NCAA has really screwed up.
Well, I'm right there with you. Michael Davis in the chat also agrees with Polly that he wants a Snow White beard for me. Do they still do the hat thing, Tim? Yes, some of them do. But at this point, what does it matter if they're going to flip their commitment in 3 weeks anyway? There are some high school kids that still do the hat thing. The big prospects will go on the local news and they'll show up on ESPN, but it's few and far between. Yeah,
Instagram. They do on Instagram. Yeah, the CBS Sports Line actually they publish a list of players that are going to be on Instagram doing their choice, so you can actually go on Instagram and find them. It's crazy.
You know who ruined it? You know who ruined this whole commitment thing? LeBron James, when he decided he was going to go to take his talents to South Beach, and he did this stupid,
so much fun.
The stupid TV special for
the choice.
It got every single athlete in the world wanting to be LeBron James.
Yeah.
And so they're like, let's go on and find a way to go on TV and make this a big deal.
I agree.
Let's transition from college football to the NFL because we do have some NFL stuff to get to. Listen, I don't know how to approach this this situation. The Chargers lose Justin Herbert for the year. The Raiders, who have already fired their head coach, and I believe they fired their GM, if I'm not mistaken, they benched Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Raiders are a dumpster fire. On Thursday Night Football last week, after scoring 0 points in their game the week prior against the Minnesota Vikings, the Raiders dropped 63 on the Los Angeles Chargers in a 63-21 win. I said it during the game that Brandon Staley should have gotten fired at halftime, and he might as well had, because the next day, everybody on the East Coast woke up waiting to hear the news, and it didn't break until about 10:30 Eastern, which is about 7:30 West Coast time, that not only Brandon Staley, but GM Tom Telesco have been relieved of their duties by ownership in Los Angeles. The ownership of Los Angeles says that they are ultimately the ones with the responsibility. Thoughts on the Chargers? We've both been talking about this for weeks, that Brandon Staley wouldn't last to the end of the season. What's next for the LA Chargers?
They're going to have to go hire some people. I'm putting in my application. You can't do worse. That roster makes 0 sense. They talked about the talent of that roster a couple of years ago, and now you're looking at it with, you've got players. You've got Bosa. You've got Khalil Mack on that team. They've tried to fix the secondary. They had J.C. Jackson on the team. They traded him away mid-season. He was having a terrible season. It makes no sense. Who's the guy in the back end? Derwin James. He's a great safety. I mean, they've got talent all over that roster. The weapons they have on offense are absolute insanity. I mean, you've got
Mike Williams, Keenan Allen.
Yeah, but part of the problem is they take injuries on that team. They've taken so many injuries on that team. To blame it on Staley is tough, but at the same time, he's a defensive coach. That looked awful. I think they have the worst passing defense in the NFL, if not close to it. And they just never showed up all season. They never really stopped anybody, and Justin Herbert can't do it all by himself. I beat the drum all day long. Justin Herbert's not the quarterback we think he is. He puts up amazing stats, but they lose. No matter what they've been doing, this is two coaches now we've dealt with Justin Herbert. He's lost. Both of them have been fired. So at some point, you got to start blaming somebody else, but we'll see what happens, man. They got a few openings down there in Los Angeles.
A couple more comments in the chat. Tyler Roberts, when you all decided to wear ugly Christmas sweaters, Bill took the gold medal.
That's right. I'm bringing it to work tomorrow.
It's just because you can't see Michael Scott's face.
No, this is even better. Look, what it looks like I'm playing with myself. There we go. Look at that. I got the logos on it and everything. We got multiple. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the best.
Let's see. We got Tim Costello rooting for Jimmy G.
I was too.
Both.
I like Jimmy.
Wait. We're going to talk Jimmy G a little bit later in the show. Matt Buck wants to know, how about them Seahawks beating Philly Monday? We were getting to that. Jumping without Geno Smith, Tim wants to point out.
I had the hat prop for that. I had the hat, the prop for that. Yep.
Yeah, it's it was good stuff. Let's go ahead. We've got some more stuff to get out of NFL Week 15. Let's start off with the Buffalo Bills blowing out the Dallas Cowboys. Our next guest, Michael Davis, is very happy to talk about this as our resident Cowboys fan. Bill, we just asked the question last week after the Cowboys blew out the Philadelphia Eagles if the Cowboys were a true Super Bowl contender. I was the only person to take the Cowboys last week over the Bills after I went back and looked at our picks last week. Is Buffalo just getting better as the season goes along, or did they just expose the Cowboys for not being as good as everybody thought they were?
Can we stop with this?
No, we're not stopping.
No.
I'm kidding.
Can we stop with this judging a team every single week, whether or not they're ready to win the Super Bowl one week and now they're terrible the next week? Like, we're not allowed to have bad games, or people aren't allowed to scheme against us. Then they stopped. We thought, that they did this better than we thought they would. Like, does that not happen in the NFL? It's not allowed to happen in the NFL.
The Bears,
every single week,
we thought they were.
We have to. Well, look at the Eagles right now. Are the Eagles terrible? They were their last undefeated team, and now they stink because now they're 10-4. Like, what?
Not good.
Well, I'm just is that what happens? It's like, I mean, the Eagles are on a run of losses, but you go from the Cowboys being world beaters and, oh my gosh, they might pose a threat to San Francisco, to they're terrible and Buffalo's the best team in the NFL. Like, people are putting the Buffalo Bills at number 2 in the power rankings. Does anybody remember they went 2-4 in the middle of the season? What? That now they're so great because they figured out how to replace the injured players that they lost for the season and they're beating teams? No, they're out scheming them. And Josh Allen, every once in a while, can play his butt off. And he is very scary as a quarterback when he's on. When he's off, they go 2-4 in 6 games. So I hate that we keep judging these teams week after week. Are there good teams in the NFL? Yes. The only team that looks really scary at this point is San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm with you there. In fairness, Josh Allen completed all of 7 passes in that game against the Cowboys.
They ran the ball.
Yeah, James Cook.
But he's also very scary. He's a very scary quarterback.
Well, earlier in the season, you said he wasn't as good as people were making him out to be.
No, and what I said about Josh Allen is sometimes he likes to throw the ball to the other team. But when he's on, he's very scary. If he's off, he's terrible.
All right, a couple more comments here. Tim Costello, it's all rigged. They want them to have the same record for ratings. That's funny. And then Pedro Guillen, 49ers lose 3 straight, looked exposed in frauds, and now they're the best team in the NFC, NFL. Be crazy. In fairness, the Niners were beat up for those 3 weeks.
Yeah, Debo
get everybody
was out
back
for all 3 games, I think, and McCaffrey missed one of them.
Yep. So let's move on here. The Panthers win their second game of the season, beating the Falcons. I'm not posing the question: are the Panthers gonna do anything? But we had a 3-headed race for the NFC South. It seems like the Falcons have sort of now fallen a game back to both the Saints and the Bucks. A question was posed in a group chat a week or so ago. Do you think the Falcons are going to be another one of those organizations that are rebuilding their franchise come the end of the season, like new coach, looking for a quarterback?
They're not going to get one. They unfortunately, they've won too many games. But Desmond Ritter's not good. I don't think we've ever thought he was good.
The projections show them still getting a top 10 pick as of this week.
Well, I mean, what do you get at a time? I mean, you can get Mahomes was 9th overall. I mean, maybe you get lucky with something like that, but that's very difficult to find a quality quarterback. Probably be better than Desmond Ridder, though. I mean, honestly, I don't know what are you going to get around 9th or 10th.
Drake May,
Drake May is going to probably be number 2.
Number 2 overall.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, Drake May.
Oh, I guess it's whether. Well, I don't know, because you got the Bears are probably going to get when we'll talk about that in a second.
I think you're looking at somebody like Michael Penix. Jaden Daniels just won the Heisman.
I would take Michael Penix Jr. for the Atlanta
He's
Falcons.
probably better than Ritter.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I mean that is probably what fixes that team. I mean, they lose a lot of really close games. They just lost this week to a team that doesn't score points. They scored 7 points. Desmond Ritter obviously is not the answer in Atlanta. So if you swap somebody out into that quarterback spot, they're a whole lot better as a team. And I don't think you clean house because you're 7 and what are they 6 and 7 somewhere in there 7 and 7
7 and yeah something like
7
that.
and 7
and
yeah.
9,
I don't think you clean
like
house with that team. I think you just need to find a better quarterback.
All right, last up on this little portion of the show, Matt Buck already came in and said Seahawks come from behind, beat the Eagles 20-17. I wish Andy was in here because it's 15 straight games.
16 years.
16 years.
The Seahawks the Eagles haven't won in Seattle, and this would be the 16th year.
I know you just said, can we stop doing this? How good is Seattle?
They're not. Seattle's a fantastic place to play football. They're good at home, but I will say this. Drew Lock surprised all of us. I think you and I were watching the end of the game. You were at home. I was at home. We're talking to each other. I think we're on PlayStation together. And we're like, unfortunately, they have Drew Lock at quarterback. And then Drew Lock threw dimes and absolutely threw a seed to Smith and Jigba for the win. Can Seattle make playoffs? Yes, they can. It's there, but they have to win.
Well,
you also think they're that good.
You also mentioned when we were talking on PlayStation Network that they finally figured out Kenneth Walker's their best player.
Yeah.
And they started feeding him the ball.
Feeding the man. Yeah.
I mean, listen, Seattle only lost to San Francisco the week prior by 12 points. That's not a bad loss. I think Seattle is better than people give. I think the NFC West, with the exception of Arizona, even though Arizona did beat Dallas earlier this year, shout out Michael Davis, the NFC West is not a bad division. I mean, the Rams are looking right now.
Yeah.
The Rams could very easily go in as the 7th seed and take on Detroit. Matt Stafford's return to Detroit could be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun teams in the NFC West.
It's interesting, Ryan. You talk about the NFC West. The Seahawks are sitting as the 8th seed right now. If they win this week, they jump up to a 64% chance of making the playoffs.
How about that?
Yeah.
Pedro Guillen in the chat. Bradbury was complete trash. Yeah, it was a rough night. We just mentioned. Moving on here, we just mentioned the Panthers winning their second game. The New England Patriots lost again this weekend. They are 3-11 right now. If you had to decide and forecast the rest of the season, who will come into 2024 with the number 1 overall pick?
The Chicago
Bears via the Panthers. Bears. You don't think the Panthers could win 1 or 2 more games and the Patriots could lose out?
No, the Patriots play the Broncos in Denver.
Loss.
It's a loss.
Yep.
They play at the Bills. Ouch.
Loss.
And then they play at home against the Jets.
Loss.
No, come on. Oh, that's a toss-up. Okay, so that's 3. So in your world, it's 3 losses. I say they'll go 1 and 2. I think they beat the Jets. The Jets can't figure themselves out. You do remember they got blanked by Miami this weekend.
Yeah.
It was the same Miami team that lost to the Titans the week before. All right. That leaves, so with you, that leaves their record at 3-14. And with me, I have them at 4-13. The Panthers' last 3 games, they're at home versus the Packers.
Loss.
They go on the road to the Jaguars.
Loss.
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 Come on. Jaguars are 8-6. That's a loss. It's in Jacksonville. And then at home versus the Buccaneers, who lead their division.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The Bears get it.
Chicago Bears.
The Bears get it. All right. We've mentioned a lot of teams that are on the outside looking in, fighting for playoff spots. So the question's asked, who are the wild card teams in the NFC and AFC? And who do you have winning the number 1 seeds going into the playoffs?
Impossible.
You think it's impossible to go right now?
It's impossible. It is so up in the air right now. It is incredible how many teams have a shot at the playoffs. I mean, you're looking at the 49ers are the 1 seed. All right. I don't think anybody's going to beat them going down the stretch. In fact, they play the Ravens this week in Santa Clara. I can't wait to watch that game. That's going to be
the best game of the week.
Yeah. I think that's on Christmas night.
Mm-hmm.
Is a Monday night game. I cannot wait to watch that game. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll find out a lot from that game because there are a lot of people that are saying the Ravens, all of a sudden, the Ravens haven't played that hard of a schedule. Nobody was looking at that when they were telling us how great Lamar was.
Yeah,
but they had a tough game this week. Also, I think in the AFC, that's wide open. You've got Baltimore might take a loss this week, and then Miami plays Dallas. So that's going to be, and they're the 2 seed right now. Miami is the 2 seed. That's going to be a fantastic game. That's happening at 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve. So that'll be fun to watch. But beyond that, man, oh my gosh. In the AFC, you have 11 teams that are still able to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh being one of them. I don't think they get in. So a lot of people think that the Broncos could still get in. They're the 11th seed right now. So that, but they dropped a 3% chance with a loss this weekend, so they have to win. And then still in the NFC, you've got 11 teams as well. The Packers, the 11th seed, they still have a shot at the playoffs. So I don't know how you pick this, man. It's crazy. Like if these teams win, like if the Saints, let's say the Packers, if the Packers win this week, they have a 25% chance of making the playoffs. But the Saints are sitting in the 9th seed, just two spots ahead of them. And if they win this week, they go to 70%. Like that's how crazy these playoffs get, the scenarios get right now.
I'm still going to call it here. And I hate that we're doing podcast pick'ems in a minute. And I don't know why I missed the San Francisco Baltimore game in picks. I'm mad at myself for doing that.
Well, wait, this is why you're skipping it, because who's winning that game?
Well, San Francisco.
Exactly.
So I'm looking at the AFC playoff picture. I still think Miami finishes as the 1 seed in the AFC.
Wow.
I'm still picking
Merry
Miami.
Christmas to me. We'll find out. We'll find out on Christmas Eve.
The crazy thing is both Jacksonville and Indianapolis sit at 8-6. There's a chance the Colts win the AFC South.
Yes.
If the Texans get C.J. Stroud back, the Texans could wind up squeezing their way in. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say both the Browns and Bengals make the playoffs, that they're sitting at the 1 and 2 wild card spots right now.
The Browns could clinch this week.
Yeah, the Browns sitting at 9-5, the Bengals sitting at 8-6. I think both of them make the playoffs, and then I think you're going to get 2 teams out of the AFC South. No, scratch that. I think the Buffalo Bills sneak their way in as the 7th seed.
Oh, don't say that. I don't even want to hear it.
The way they're playing, I think the Bills sneak in. So you get Browns, Bengals, and Bills out of the AFC. The NFC, obviously the Eagles are in. I think the Rams make it, and I think the Seahawks make it. I think you get 3 teams out of the NFC West in the NFC playoffs. Obviously, like you said, San Francisco's taking the 1 seed. I don't think there's anything Detroit can do to catch San Francisco. There's a chance that either Dallas or Philadelphia flip-flop in the division.
Rams and Seahawks?
Yes, Rams and Seahawks.
Rams have a 52% chance right now. Seahawks 51.
I've got a feeling if we're to listen to PJ Steven and believe that everything is rigged in the NFL, then the Rams will be playing the Lions in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
In Detroit. And Matt Stafford will get to go watch Detroit or play against Detroit.
Oh, to create those
the storylines,
TV matchups, the excitement. I got you.
Patriots, Bills make it too. Maybe not far in the playoffs, but they get their foot in the door. I'm right
60% chance right now for the Bills to make the playoffs.
Well,
60%.
Yeah, it's going to happen. So, all right, that's all the college and NFL talk that we're going to get to right now. We're going to take our first break. We come back the next week of Podcast Pickems, see how bad or how good we did in last week's picks, and we'll be joined by my co-host of the Cat Cave, Michael Davis, to make picks this week. So stay tuned. We'll be right back right here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns.
This episode is brought to you by Carolina Business Equipment. With offices in Charleston, Greenville, Columbia, and Florence, Carolina Business Equipment can supply your copiers, computers, and printers anywhere in the state of South Carolina. Call my personal best friend Aaron Thompson at 843-452-8761 for a quote today, and make sure you tell him that Ryan from Tap Outs and Touchdowns sent you. Carolina Business Equipment, you worry about your business, let us handle your technology.
And if you're watching the show live, you'll notice I had a wardrobe change because that Santa hat was just too hot. I do not keep it blistering cold in my house anymore. And I just couldn't do it. So welcome back to Tap Outs and Touchdowns. It's your guy, Bully Ride, with Banker Bill. We've got some picks to get to. Remember, if you're watching the show with us live, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, join the conversation, put something in the comments, and join the conversation with us. Podcast Pickems, we are week 17, if you can believe that. Just absolutely crazy how many weeks we've done in picks. And Bill continues to pull away from me in picks
as he should.
After I finished, this is probably the most embarrassing picks that I've had all season. I went 1-4 last week Bakerville went 3-2. But our guest picker, a guy who doesn't watch football, also went 1-4 in picks. Shout out to PJ Steven for making me look like an absolute moron. Andy Hunter in the chat. We did a lot of talking about the Seahawks, man. I got them making the playoffs. You should have been here a second ago, but you can always go rewatch it in Spotify or on Facebook, whatever you want to watch it later. All right, without further ado, this guy has his own couple of podcasts, Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast, where he talks wrestling as well. We've kind of flipped back and forth on each other's shows, and we also co-host the Cat Cave over on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network and the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel as part of the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. Let's bring in Michael Davis. Michael, what's up, bud? I think Michael's muted. On mute.
Mike's muted.
Oh,
rookie!
It's amateur hour around here.
Act like you've been here before, Mike.
Okay. Let's see.
On.
It's we're live, right? We can't edit that out.
We're live, pal.
No.
Oh, we're live.
We're live.
Doing it live.
So a couple
we're doing
things.
It live.
I think. Okay, so I'm glad you took the Santa hat off, because I was like, this is my first tap outs and touchdowns appearance. And I was like, I'm going to wear a backwards hat for Ryan. But apparently it's bad luck, because all of a sudden I start acting like Ryan all the time and start making mistakes.
Mute yourself.
You didn't unmute yourself. You fell flat like the Cowboys did against the Bills last week. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
I see that.
Okay, just like Banker Bill said.
Like
just like Banker Bill said, okay? You can't write them off after one game. By the way, sorry, Banker Bill, but the Cowboys usually come back better from losses, and it's going to be a tough matchup.
I'm aware.
Well,
we're both terrible against good teams, though, so that's good news.
At least you don't have to worry about Zeke Elliott running the ball for Dallas, as you have him in the jersey and behind you on the screen here. Yeah. Michael, you've got some big shoes to fill, and by that I mean we've had 3 people not miss a game this season. Big Tex, Lapino, and Matt Buck, still the only guys to not get a game wrong. Matt Buck did tie one game. Our best, I think, percentage-wise, is Aaron Thompson, 11-4. So let's see how you can stack up against all of our guests that we've had this week. And let's start making some picks. Thursday Night Football. The New Orleans Saints at the LA Rams. The Rams are a 4-point favorite. The Saints are scratching and clawing to continue to try to take that win of the NFC South. Michael, preseason, you had the Falcons being the team to beat in the NFC South, and I chose the Saints. So let's start with you. Do the Saints get another win this week and get one step closer to winning the NFC South, or do the Rams take it and get one step closer to playing the Lions in the playoffs?
Well, first, I'm seeing the pick'em standings on the bottom of the screen and seeing that guest pickers are 46, 37-1. And you asked me to be a guest picker because you needed to catch up. I got the text evidence right here with Bully Rye. But I don't know. We'll see if you can catch up. I'm not going to be invited back.
Way to go, Santa.
Chill out, Papa Christmas. All right, who you got, Mike?
But here's the thing. Thursday Night Football should not be a thing. I've said that since last year where Tua got hurt and shouldn't have been playing in that game. But it usually favors the home team. And the Rams have the better running game, have the better receiving core right now. They're healthy at the right time. I expect the Rams to win probably by 6 points in this game. The Saints will try to stay in it, but give me the Rams cover.
All right, Bill, who you got? Rams hosting the Saints, Thursday Night Football.
I like what Mike said. I feel like Derek Carr can't remove his head from his rear end often enough to play good games. He frustrates me. I thought they would be a pretty good team. I guess they are a pretty decent team, but man, does he frustrate me. And the Rams, I feel like they get hot at the right time, man. They're starting to really play pretty decent football. And I think 4 is not a big enough spread. I think the Rams cover that. Do we lose Ryan? I think we lost Ryan.
I think we lost Ryan.
I know. This is what happens. Ryan,
amateur hour, right?
It's amateur hour. Look at the face he's making too. It's fantastic.
He's really
It's so good.
frustrated.
And the
at us
problem
right
is
now.
he does it right now in the picks. Like there's no way we can change the thing on the bottom of the screen or anything like that. And he's gonna text me and be like, "My computer froze." You wait. It'll be right
Oh,
there.
he'll probably have to restart it.
Yeah. But we'll still sit here. We'll hang out. We could move forward actually if you want to. We'll make Ryan make his own picks. I've got his. Hang on a second. I have him listed to see which one he has. But as soon as we hear from him, we'll find out what. Wait, here it is. He said, "Hold it down." So it's probably exactly what happened. So we'll move forward. All right. The second game he has on the slate. I'll go first this time, Mike. The next game he has on the slate Saturday, 4:30. The Bengals at the Steelers. Bengals currently favored by 2.5 points. And I think that's probably, I don't know if Mitch Trubisky's going to be playing in this game, if he's going to be the starter, if they're actually going to get Kenny Pickett back. I haven't seen anything about that, but I still don't feel that great about Pittsburgh. I think they have a much better chance of beating Cincinnati if they have Kenny Pickett in the lineup. But I still think Jake Browning, he's holding it down there, man. This guy from Washington, dude's playing some decent football there for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think they probably cover this one in Pittsburgh. What say you?
He's playing with the chip on his shoulder right now.
Yeah.
And here's where I'm differing is because the Bengals are without Joe Burrow, but Browning's playing pretty well. The Steelers, I don't care if Kenny Pickett's there. I don't care if Mitch Trubisky's there. But Mike Tomlin's probably coaching for his job right now.
Wow. Who says things like that? When Bill Belichick's about to get fired? Yeah.
Hey, Bill Belichick mutually parts ways. But what's the line at? 2 points?
Yeah, 2. Ryan has it listed at 2.5. 2.5 Bengals are favored.
And see, like, these AFC North division games are so hard to take. But at the end of the day, I don't trust the Steelers quarterback, whoever's there. I don't trust the Steelers receivers to show up and be in the right mindset. Gosh, give me Cincinnati, but it's probably going to be that field goal.
All right, so you think Cincinnati wins by probably a field goal, right? I was thinking the same thing there. A field goal sounds about right to me. Third game on the slate, Sunday, 1 p.m. The Lions, 3.5-point favorites over the Vikings. This one's in Minnesota. Mike, take this one. What do you think? Who's going to win between the Lions and the Vikings?
Lions are really hot right now, but they're looking at that big division lead. I'm thinking, how much did the Lions lead? I think they lead by 3 games over Minnesota right now in that division.
And they can clinch this weekend, by the way.
Yeah, but Minnesota's playing for their playoff hopes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take Minnesota here. Simply put, I think Justin Jefferson's a little bit healthier than he was. Also, Minnesota's at home. And again, those divisional games are like 50-50. Like it's tough.
Yeah.
It's so tough. But will they rely more on Sam Laporta and St. Brown, or will they rely more on Montgomery and Gibbs? And if Minnesota can stop one of those, then I'll take Minnesota. I think the Vikings got this one.
I think that one's tough, man. I think the Vikings. Now, I'm going to ask you, who are the Vikings starting at quarterback? Same guy that played this week. Yes, exactly. It's that tough, right? Same guy who played this week.
Josh
and
Dobbs,
I can't think of his name. No, it's not going to be Josh Dobbs. He threw 4 interceptions.
Was it No, it wasn't Case Keenum. It was
No. You make me look it up. I'll look it up. Keep trying.
Hold on.
Somebody in the chat. Somebody in the chat. Somebody could throw it.
Please throw it in the chat.
Oh, I got it. Never mind.
I watched
I didn't
that
have to look it up. I didn't have to look it up. It's Nick Mullins. It finally popped into my head. Exactly. He did play pretty well, except for, did you watch the brotherly shove at one point during that game? They had a chance to close it out, and he basically just dove onto the ground. Like, no, dude, you have to stand up and let the guys behind you shove you. He just went down. Do
you think that play gets banned this offseason?
I think it's very possible. I think they're gonna ban it at the line of scrimmage. I think down the field you could still help your players, but I think within like a yard of the line of scrimmage they're gonna say no. But because Nick Mullins dove onto the ground and acted like he didn't know what he was doing in that situation, that makes me very nervous, even though he played a pretty decent game. I think the Lions are going to come out and try to prove something here, and I think they win this game. I think they cover it.
Is Dobbs hurt?
Dobbs is not hurt. He just threw 4 interceptions in a game, and they realized he's as terrible as everybody else thought they were. Like I said last week, he should forget the playbook again, because he played really well in the game. He didn't know the playbook. All right, next game on the slate, Sunday at 4:05. Jaguars at Buccaneers. It's the battle of North and Central Florida. Buccaneers 1-point favorites there in Tampa. I will take the. I'll start off with this one. Jaguars looked horrific this week. Horrific against a good Baltimore team. But they were supposed to be, I mean, they were 8-5 going into that game. They were only 2 games back of Baltimore and probably should have put up a better fight. I have no idea what Trevor Lawrence was doing with football last week. He fumbled on his own without being touched. Tim Costello and I laughed about that quite a bit. We got Ryan. I can't put up his comments, but if you see the comments, he's saying Rams, Bengals, Lions. Okay. So he's got Bengals and Lions with us. We're going to the 4th game. In this one, 1-point favorite, let's see, Bucks. I think I will take, wow. I think the Bucks on this one, man. I think they're hot. Baker Mayfield, a perfect passer rating. Close. Perfect passer rating last week in Lambeau Field. That was the first visiting quarterback in the history of Lambeau Field to ever have a perfect passer rating. So I'll take the Bucks. And the I guess they're 1 point. So 1 less point. I think they win that. What do you think?
So you're taking Tampa Bay. Man, that hurts for Panther fans right now. Having Baker Mayfield last year, and Baker might lead the Buccaneers to win the division.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes
he wasn't ever that bad. I don't think he was ever that bad, man. He was never a first overall draft pick, but
I hated Baker.
He's done some good stuff. I think if he hadn't had some injuries up there in Cleveland, he'd still be there.
I think Baker's matured a little bit more than when he was like at Oklahoma, in Cleveland, to where it's like, oh, I'm on my 3rd team. I got to start like actually acting like an adult, because I group him into that like Johnny Manziel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he acted like that in college. He was grabbing his junk and stuff. Yeah.
Had the college fame, everything. That's why I didn't like Baker, but he's proven people wrong right now in Tampa Bay. Jacksonville, I think reason Trevor Lawrence played so bad wasn't he like just in concussion protocol? Oh, look, amateur Christmas sweater's back.
I don't know if he was in concussion protocol. He looked like he had a concussion in that game, the way he played. I mean, there's so many mistakes. I think they left about 16 points on the field between missed field goals and Trevor Lawrence making mistakes.
But I'm going to take the Jags. And it's a road game, but it's like it's so close, Jacksonville and Tampa, where it's like I think a lot of fans are going to come out and support the Jaguars. Sure. Give me the Jaguars in that game.
Okay, Ryan, we're back to you, man.
Yeah, listen, Krampus wanted to take over this year for this week for
really needs a new computer. If anybody wants to donate a new computer to Ryan, he really needs one that doesn't work on a hamster wheel.
Yes, please. Santa, I'm asking Santa for a new computer. I'd like the audience to be my Santa Claus. This is just
Ryan.
Rough.
I got. Okay, I got this as a gift a couple years ago, but I'm willing to give you this leapfrog that somebody got me a couple years ago.
It's about your
dirty Santa.
Listen to this jerk. Listen, the Jags are one of those hit or miss teams every single week. You don't know which one's going to show up. They could surprise everybody and beat the Chiefs, and then they could turn around and lose to the Panthers the next week. Give me the Bucks to win this game. It's basically a pick 'em at a 1-point favorite for the Bucks.
Wow.
The Bucks and the Saints are going to be in a 2-headed race to the NFC South Divisional Championship. Give me the Bucks over the Jags. Bill, who you got here?
I already took them. I took the Bucks.
You took the Bucks as well.
Mike stands alone, taking the Jags. He thinks the Jags are going to overcome Trevor Lawrence's bumbling and stumbling and win that game.
And just to be clear, we all took the Bengals, right?
We all did take the Bengals, yes.
All right, and then we all took the Lions as well. Is that accurate?
Did we all take the Lions? Mike, did you take the Lions?
Lions over the Vikings? No, I took Minnesota.
He took the Vikings. He took the Vikings.
What a hater, man. Just because I talk crap about the Cowboys. Just because I talk crap about the Cowboys, you have to take a dump on the Lions.
I'm just saying those division games are like tricky.
Said the guy who's 4 back for the season.
It's not going to be tricky when the Lions come to town and win the NFC South this week. Or the NFC North.
I'd wear it backwards too, so nobody could see that logo.
No, not doing it. All right, last game on the slate. The Dallas Cowboys traveling to the Miami Dolphins Sunday, 4:25 kickoff. The Dolphins a 1.5-point favorite. This is your guys' 2 teams, but I haven't made a pick first yet. So I'm going to go ahead and make the pick first. I'm taking the Dolphins. I think the Cowboys weren't necessarily exposed last week by the Buffalo Bills, but I think there's a point where people accuse Miami of not being able to beat anybody that's any good. And outside of Philadelphia, Dallas does the same thing. I mean, they lost to an Arizona team earlier this season without Kyler Murray. They weren't missing much on that team when Dallas lost to that Arizona Cardinals team. And now they actually get to go play a decent team at the end of the year, both out of the AFC East in the Bills and Dolphins. And I think they're going to go 0-2 this weekend and lose to the Dolphins. Give me the Dolphins plus 1.5. Bill, let me go to you. Do your Dolphins get it done against Mike's Cowboys?
Man, both these teams are actually pretty bad against good teams. The Cowboys have a 1-3 record against teams over 500. The Dolphins are 0-3. This is a prove-it game for both teams, and I don't know. I mean, Miami is so injured. I don't know if they're going to be able to put an offensive line on the field at this point. The only starter they had left going into last week from the beginning of the season got injured in the game last week. So, but yeah, I think they still cover. I think Miami wins this game.
All right, Mike, what say you? Do your Cowboys get it done on the road on Christmas Eve?
So I'm going to try to sway you, Ryan, to change your pick, and that's okay. Banker Bill alluded to this, that they don't have an offensive line right now. I believe the injury report today came out, and the entire offensive line, the starting offensive line set out. Tyreek Hill, both Mostert and a chain. Like, I expect a lot of those guys to still be on the field this weekend, but A, how healthy are you going to be? And B, how many reps are you going to get? But these two teams, like, I think the Dolphins are a really good team. I think the Cowboys are a really good team. They just don't match up well against each other. Okay? Because Dallas, they do love to take the ball away. They do love to create turnovers. And sometimes you can get Gilmore on your best receiver and lock him down. And sometimes Deron Bland is going to intercept the ball and take it back to the house and create defensive points. But then you also have Tyreek Hill, who's just blown by every single person. And then you have Jalen Waddle on the other side. But Dallas's main weakness is the running game, the running defense as well. Okay. Mostert and the chain are like a two-headed monster that nobody talks about because the chain missed 4 or 5 weeks earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. I have both of them on my fantasy team. I don't usually have two running backs from the same team, but on my fantasy team, but they're that good with each other. I'm not doing great in fantasy though, but that's beside the point. But there is one thing I'm holding on to. The one thing I'm holding on to is Mike McCarthy rarely loses in Dallas after he suffered a loss. Okay. Usually what happens in Dallas is they get 3, 4, 5 wins and then they lose. And then they come back humbled and win. Oh, you're showing our fantasy football league.
It's coming up. Ryan, just making sure you can do the thing.
Yeah,
I was pretty bad on that.
Yeah, no, listen, you were talking about how bad you were in fantasy football, and I didn't want to loud you out, but I believe you were the 9 seed in the consolation playoffs.
I wonder where I was in that one.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. Mike, refresh my memory. You said you're taking the Cowboys to get the win this weekend, right?
I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm trusting Mike McCarthy. He's a good coach. And just like Banker Bill said, slow down. The media loves to as soon as a team loses a big game, they're all on them. And after hearing all of that, I think Dallas wins, but it's going to be a close, tight game that honestly could go either way.
Well,
it's going to be fun.
One of us can be right, I suppose. I mean, we all can't be perfect, right? And the Cowboys aren't going to be perfect this weekend, and you're going to have to be disappointed going to your
what
Christmas
happens when you lose to Nick Mullins?
It will ruin my Christmas if the Dolphins lose. It's be a second year
ruin mine.
I have to watch. Well, I don't care about yours, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. We don't. Get it.
Hey, just wait for Mullins to beat the Detroit Lions.
Oh, this will be great.
That's not going to happen. I do first of all want to thank you guys once again for holding down the fort when my McDonald's Wi-Fi decided to crap out on my computer once again in the middle of a show. So appreciate y'all holding down the fort. Mike, I'm going to give you the opportunity to shout some people out. Again, you can follow Mike on Instagram at @OutOfPocketTRSR or _TRSR or at Drop the Mic Wrestling. You can find both of those shows wherever it is that you get your podcast. And you can go follow us on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network and listen to the Cat Cave every week. Michael and Shannon Smith actually hosted the show this week over on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. Mike, anybody you want to shout out before we say goodnight to you?
Yeah, well, I would love to shout out you guys, Banker Bill, Bully Rye, PJ Steven, and particularly, like, I've enjoyed this podcast. I've enjoyed this show. I've enjoyed the growth you guys have had. Like, it is like astonishing just how much this page has grown here in the recent few months, and super excited for you guys. And shout out to PJ and Bully Rye. They helped me with a wrestling Facebook page, The Wrestling Movement. And we're in the midst of an Intercontinental Championship tournament that you can go vote on. That's partnered with the @ Drop the Mic Wrestling on Instagram right there. And I'm just glad I got to be on the show with you guys this week.
Mike, it's been my pleasure. I'm sorry I didn't get to spend more time with you since my computer decided to die. But
good talking to you, Mike.
We'll have you back on, and we'll do some more football talking. Thanks to Mike Davis for being here again tonight. Bill, this is getting embarrassing, dude. I don't know how often I don't know how much more I can deal with this.
How much can you take, Ryan? How much
I don't know.
So you're a Lions fan. You can take plenty.
To peek behind the curtains, I've been under the weather all week, coughing my head off for the last 2 months, and now my computer craps out in the middle of the Christmas football show. And I don't know. It's amateur hour over here. So we're going to take our final break. We come back. We're going to talk some fantasy football. We're going to wrap up Bullies, Buys, and Sells, and Bill's Factor Crap. We're going to talk fantasy football, Tap Outs and Touchdowns Fantasy Football League, as we are in the second round of the playoffs. Talk a little bit of fantasy football playoffs, and then we're going to discuss a little bit of who were the most disappointing players in fantasy football this season. So we'll take our final break, and we come back. It's all fantasy football to finish the show right here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns.
Established in 2008, One Stop Repairs in North Charleston, South Carolina, is your one-stop shop for all of your electronic repair needs. Specializing in cell phones, tablets, computers, laptops, and game consoles, One Stop Repairs offers reputable and quality service with the quickest turnaround time and the most competitive prices in the Lowcountry. You can find them on Google with an exceptional 4.9 star rating, or on Facebook by searching for One Stop Repairs. Call for a quote today at 843-343-6310. That's the number one, One Stop Repairs.
And we are back on Tap Outs and Touchdowns to talk fantasy football. It's your guy, Bully Rye, and Banker Bill. And I think I just got a nice little fun offer in the chat. So since my internet crapped out on me, I didn't get a chance to look at some of the comments here. IDKJP over on YouTube wants to know if you ask a fantasy football question. By all means, hopefully you're still here despite my internet connection crapping out. But as always, you can always ask questions that we can answer on the show. Volley Polly also wanted to make sure that he was glad to see Mike again. Love to watch you take charge when my internet decided to crap out. And then Bryce had a question. So hopefully we'll get them back.
I couldn't put it on the screen, so I couldn't, because the guy that runs the comments was having issues.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but maybe next week I won't have another internet issue.
Is Bryce still here? We could answer his question.
Bryce and JP both are, I believe, gone because I don't see anybody still watching on YouTube. But it's my fault. I'll just have to take it what it is.
Yeah, way to go.
Michael Fitzgerald said I need to put in a ticket for IT, so maybe that'll help.
I worked with Mike. That's Mike.
I know I know exactly what it is. Yeah,
he's making fun of us because we do IT.
No, I totally get it. It looks like Volley Polly's offering me a throwback Barry Sanders jersey for $25, so I may have to take him up on that. All right, let's talk some fantasy football here as we wind down the end of the season in fantasy football, as most leagues are in well enough in their playoffs at this point. Buys and sells. We had a fun season.
Look at this domination.
A fun season in buys and sells. Bill's Factor Crap outpaced my buys and sells by about 4 or 5 games. 63 and 57 were my buys and sells. 68 and 51 were Bill's Factor Crap. We should mention that not one week did either one of us go perfect, but we both had a week where we went 7-1. but my worst week was worse than your worst week. 1-7 was my worst week. Your worst week was 2-6. How did you like the buys and sells and factor crap this year, Bill?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I feel bad because I feel like I'm just criticizing you instead of actually coming up with important information. It's basically me saying, no, Ryan, that's terrible. That kind of thing. But it's fun. I like it.
You should feel bad for criticizing me. I'm kidding.
I do.
Maybe we'll tweak it. We've got some time. Maybe we'll tweak it and figure something else out going into next season. But yeah, Bullies, buys and sells, and Bill's Factor Crap are in the books. A fun season trying to help you guys win your fantasy leagues, which brings us to the Tap Outs and Touchdowns Fantasy League update. Last week, we saw a couple people get buys in the playoffs, and the winners of both the Banker Bill and the Bully Rye division. Banker Bill wins his division, and he's going to be known as that damn Ravens guy. His name's Sean Seelig, is your winner of the Bully Rye division. You can kind of see it on the screen. It's a little blurry. The Bent Creek Bandits won their playoff game against Patrick's homies, my brother-in-law Zach, if I'm not mistaken. Third in the Bully Rye division, falls to the hands of I just said his name, the Bent Creek Bandits, and so now they take on you in the semifinals of the champion, for the championship.
Yeah.
Bill, how you feel going into this game?
I'm just excited. That's my buddy Daniel, and I'm just happy that we only had two players get out of our division because the way that the divisions worked, even though 6 teams made the playoffs, it was based on record, so it could have been one person getting out of the division, right? But yeah, I was happy to see that the other team in the division move forward, and then one of us is going to be in the title game. So I'm looking forward to the matchup. A little bit of bragging rights between the two of us, because we do talk pretty often. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like I've got this one, but he did have a really good week last week. Not like you, though, Ryan. Not like you. Ridiculous.
I was going to say, you talk about somebody who had a really good week. I had to fight and claw my way back into the playoffs at the last week of the regular season, and I showed out against Volley Polly here in the first round. And Volley Polly wants to make sure everybody knows that he acknowledges me as his one and only tribal chief.
Well done. To be fair, everyone would have beaten Polly last week. I mean, 93. Come on.
I mean, 173 seems like a pretty high score.
That's a lot.
So now
that's a lot, yeah.
I get my good friend Sean in the semifinals of the championship rounds for a chance to have a Banker Bill versus Bully Rye.
Would that be unreal?
Championship game. I never would have expected that in my life, that we set this league up and somehow we both make the championship game.
Oh, I fully expected to be in the Final Four, Ryan.
I mean, so did I, but
no, you did. 7-7. No, you barely snuck into the playoffs. Had a fantastic week. You got to do it 2 more times.
Have a better regular season. I expected to be 10-4 going into the playoffs.
Thanks to Tim for getting you into the playoffs. Somebody had to take a loss to get you into the playoffs.
Thank you, Tim, for allowing me to make the miraculous comeback.
Hey, it's all that matters, man. You're there. It just matters if you're there.
Bill, I don't know how many other leagues you're playing, but how are you doing in your other playoffs? I mean, in one of my leagues, I was 7-3 in second place in my league, and I lose 4 straight. I wind up finishing 5th, or not finishing 5th. I'm ranked 5th going into the last week of the regular season. I need to win and the guy in 4th place to lose, or I need to outscore the guy in 4th place by 52 points. I outscored him by 40. I think it was 48. I missed the playoffs by 5 points scored. But if you go back and I'm not going to show it on the screen, I did finish with the most points scored against me on the season, which would explain why I struggled. But I'm out of the playoffs in that league, and that's the only other league that I had a shot. Bill, how are you looking at your other fantasy leagues?
I had the 2 seeds, so I had a bye. So I play again this week in the Final Four of that league as well.
All right. Well, Bill, I guess it should come to biggest fantasy disappointments.
Oh, I didn't want to do this today. You hit me with this at like 6 o'clock.
You know,
hey, Bill, try this.
We might be able to hold off unless when my computer crashed. Oh, no, it didn't erase my notes. You're SOL. We're going to do this anyway.
I'm good. I did mine, so we can do it quickly because we're already like up against time and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, because I took another 10 minutes to come back to the show.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, Let's go quarterback. Who do you have as your biggest fantasy football disappointments of the year in the quarterback position?
I have 2.
Let's hear them.
I did 2 per position.
Same here. All right, let's go.
Okay, so my 2 largest, or I guess biggest, quarterback disappointments are Trevor Lawrence.
Ooh.
He is the 15th overall quarterback in fantasy, actually in our fantasy league, and he was I believe in our league was a 5th round draft pick.
Okay.
Which I want to say most of the good quarterbacks, but the ones up top went in the 3rd round. Then you had a bunch go in the 4th round. You had Brock Purdy, didn't get drafted at all. You picked him up off of waivers. And you had somebody like Trevor Lawrence, who really isn't even a starter at this point. If you're 15th or if you're 13th or worse, there are 12 better quarterbacks. Those should be the quarterbacks on the teams. And then the other one is Justin Fields. 20th overall quarterback, and he was considered a top 5 fantasy quarterback coming into the season. And injuries derailed him a little bit, but for the most part, has been super inconsistent and hasn't been very good. So I think those are your 2 bad quarterback draft picks if you pick them on your teams.
Pedro Guillen.
I didn't. So I did this. I didn't really want to go for injuries. I didn't really want to say like if a guy had like a season-ending injury, I felt like that was low-hanging fruit. So I wanted to talk about the guys that actually played most of the season, because those are draft breakers, right? If you actually think this guy's going to be, the backbone of your team and you play him and he never does do well, if he's an injury, he's not going to be in.
Yeah. Well, Pedro felt differently because he said Aaron Rodgers was his biggest disappointment. I'll give you my 2. I've got Joe Burrow as my number 1. Injury obviously did play a part in it. 3 games under 10 fantasy points this year, 3 more under 20.
That. Yeah.
But he missed a bunch of time due to injury, but he shouldn't have been out there risking himself. He wasn't ready to go. He was out there playing, and he wasn't playing well for a majority of the season. My other one goes to Jimmy Garoppolo. We talked about him and the Raiders. It was his worst season as a starter in the NFL. 7 touchdowns to 9 interceptions on the year. Eventually benched for rookie Aiden O'Connell. The Raiders have been bad. And when Jimmy G was one of the main reasons going through week 8, which is why Jimmy G and Joe Burrow, not that anybody was going to be starting Jimmy G, but I mean, he's pretty far down there from a quarterback standpoint. And, you thought maybe you could use him as a flyer here and there. And it was not the case for Jimmy Garoppolo. Pedro said he ended up with Purdy somehow. Can't complain. Same.
Nobody believed. Everybody was afraid of his arm going into the draft.
Yep, but I was not. He also said that Burrow was his 2nd quarterback draft pick.
Wow.
So there you go. All right, Bill, let's go to running back. I'll start us off here. My first running back goes to Alexander Mattison. He's currently 34th in running back scoring this season, but was given the keys to the kingdom in Minnesota after they let go of Dalvin Cook in the offseason. And Alexander Mattison never broke 20 points in a single game. And in 7 games, he finished with under 10. Only 3 touchdowns all year. They all were receiving touchdowns for Alexander Mattison of the Minnesota Vikings. And my other one goes to running back Aaron Jones. Missed a ton of time to do. I know you said it was low-hanging fruit. Missed a ton of time due to injury this year. But in the games that he played, he only scored in the double digits 3 times. His best game of the season coming in week 1 with a 26.7-point outing with no Aaron Rodgers. I thought this would have been Jones's time to break out. Everybody's been screaming for years to free Aaron Jones, and all he did was disappoint anybody who drafted him this season, which is why Alexander Mattison and Aaron Jones are my running back disappointments. Bill, what say you?
I like those. Those are good. I think I didn't put this as one of mine, but I thought like Austin Eckler, like that was. I mean, he's a one of the top 2 that you usually draft. It was either Eckler or CMC, and Eckler had a terrible season, but injuries obviously I didn't want to go with him. Mine that never got injured, Dalvin Cook. You mentioned him. People talked about him as RB2 with a RB1 upside and a flex at minimum. He was being drafted in the top 15 rounds in most drafts. He's the 66th overall running back in football, fantasy-wise. He's only put up, I think, 40.2 points all season long. Terrible, terrible, terrible. The Jets didn't use him. Breece Hall having a good season. The other one that I wanted to say, kind of a disappointment because of where his draft stock was during the draft, it's actually Bijan Robinson. Everybody said he was I saw a lot of people saying he's the 3rd best running back in the draft. Atlanta's going to have to run. They're going to run because Desmond Ridder's not a good quarterback. He's going to have huge upside. He's the 13th best overall running back in the league. So he's an RB2, and that's not what you're looking for if you're drafting him in the top of your draft. So I put Bijan Robinson as my other disappointment. If you were looking for more out of him if you drafted him early.
I'm with you. All right, let's go over to wide receiver, Bill. If you got 2 wide receivers, let's hear them.
All right. I said I didn't want to do injuries, but here I did because these guys were team breakers. Team breakers. All right. Number one, Justin Jefferson. Has to be. Has to be. He was blowing the doors off of it when he started the season, gets hurt with the hamstring injury, misses a million weeks in a row. I drafted him. Ryan, the league that we were in together, I drafted Justin Jefferson number one. I still got the 1 seed. Figure that out. I have no idea how that happened. Anyway, so he's the 44th overall wide receiver. That's terrible for the guy that went number one in most drafts on ESPN Fantasy. The other guy, Mike Williams, San Diego Chargers. He got drafted as a 5th-round draft pick in our league. He's the 101st overall wide receiver. He only played 3 games. That's a game. That's a team breaker.
Mike Williams, I think he's dealt with injuries his entire career. He actually broke his neck at Clemson running into a goalpost. And he's dealt with different injuries throughout his career. So I'm right there with you with Mike Williams. Let me give you mine. That doesn't have to do with injury, but let's just hear him. Calvin Ridley. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence earlier in the show. Calvin Ridley ranks 29th amongst wide receivers in scoring, but he's been the poster child for inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
He could only perform when Zay Jones was on the field with him. He followed up all but one 20-point fantasy performance with a single-digit game the next week. Only broke 20 points 4 times all season in his first year back from his gambling suspension with his new team. So Calvin Ridley, a big disappointment. And he's on that team in our league that we are in the playoffs with right now, and I believe I've got him benched this week. My next one might be a surprise because he's got a teammate who broke another 1,000 yards. I believe he's got 14 straight or something, 1,000-yard wide receiver or receiving seasons in the NFL. But my other wide receiver, absolutely.
Chris Godwin?
That's it.
All right.
With the way Baker Mayfield has played in Tampa this year, you would have thought that Godwin would have had a stellar season. He had just 2 games over 100 yards receiving all year. And his best fantasy output of the season came in week 15 when he put up 25 points against the Packers. But by then, it was probably way too late for anyone to have been able to take advantage or for anyone to have felt comfortable even starting him, which is why Chris Godwin is my other wide receiver disappointment. And let's go ahead and go into tight ends, and I'll start us off here because I'm going to make you really happy with one, and you're probably going to laugh at the other. So let's start off with the one that you're probably going to laugh at. Tight end Darren Waller of the New York Giants.
I have him too, Ryan.
Do you? Well, let's hear what you have to say about Darren Waller.
Well, he's the 23rd overall tight end in fantasy. And in our league, he was drafted in the 4th round. There was a lot of expectations around Darren Waller, especially with the way that the offense was shaping up there in New York. A lot of people thought Waller was going to have a breakout season, and he's kind of been junk. He really hasn't done much at all.
He has battled a hamstring all season. He only broke double-digit fantasy points 3 times on the year. They finally decided to put him on IR to try to heal up. You mentioned high expectations after being traded from Vegas in the offseason. But he fell flat when in crunch time for both Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor when they were back there at quarterback. This one's the one that you're probably going to have a field day with. My other tight end disappointment. Can you take a guess on who it might be?
No, you have to give me a clue.
I was very high on this guy at the beginning of the year.
Oh, Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst of the Carolina Panthers. My biggest whiff in the offseason.
Oh.
I said Hayden Hurst will finish the year with 1,000+ receiving yards or upwards of 100 receptions, but he will now finish the year 41st or worst as I fight a cough. Bill, who's your tight end that you're disappointed in?
You're going to go crazy about this one as Ryan tries not to die in the background. All right, Ryan, you ready for this one? This is a good surprise. Everybody get ready to pick your jaw up off the floor. My other disappointing tight end is none other than Travis Kelce. Second overall tight end. That's very fantastic. But he was drafted in the 1st round by most people that drafted him. We talked about it in the beginning of the season. If Travis Kelce is available in the bottom of the 1st round, you have to pick him because he separates himself so much from everybody else in that position. He did not do that this year. That he's actually being beat by TJ Hawkinson, who was picked right around like the 8th round, which is about where tight ends start to go off the board.
That's wild.
And so if you wasted a first round pick on Travis Kelce, you probably still were able to, have a decent team, but I think you probably didn't get what you thought you were going to get out of Travis Kelce this year.
Well, I'm right there with you. And now that I've got my my composure back, let me finish my thought about Hayden Hurst. He's going to finish the year 41st or worst in tight end scoring after being placed on IR due to his concussion back in week 10. Before then, calling the Panthers offense anemic would have been a compliment, but I predicted, again, Hayden Hurst would have a really big season. The concussion lingered, and it's kind of scary to know that it sent him to the IR. But as everybody who's been watching this show since the beginning of the football season knows, I had extremely high hopes for Hayden Hurst, and my homering got the better of me.
No.
My homerism got the better of me. So Hayden Hurst. I'm with you on Travis Kelce, though. I mean, there were weeks where he had duds, and we don't normally see that out of Travis Kelce. He didn't play week 1 when the Lions beat the Chiefs. So yeah, and he seems to play better outside of last week whenever his girlfriend is in the crowd. I'm not sure what her name is, but every now and then they'll throw her on the camera. That seems to put a lot of fans in a frenzy whenever they show his girlfriend on the show. Bill, begrudgingly, we have made it to the end of the show. As I fight back a cough again, Homer's Corner. Talk about Tua.
Tua Tagovailoa is your MVP this season. I'm convinced people are going to say that it's Lamar Jackson. I don't believe that anymore. We saw Tua without Tyreek Hill this week, and everybody's been saying, well, Tua's great because of Tyreek. Tua's great because of Tyreek. Well, you've seen Tua without Tyreek, and he just happened to put up a 119.2 passer rating against the second best passing defense in the NFL this past week. He completed over – Ryan's giving me music in the background. He completed over – you're right, man. You're right. He's dying. Look at that. Don't watch it on live. He completed over 87% of his passes. And, well, this has kind of gone on all season, folks. Tua Tagovailoa has played almost 5 full complete games without Tyreek Hill on the field. And the statistics show, as we lose Ryan, poor Ryan, just not feeling good. The statistics show, you're muted still, don't worry. The statistics show that when Tyreek is off the field, the Dolphins get a little bit less explosive, but Tua Tagovailoa actually gets more efficient. He has 101.3 passer rating with Tyreek Hill on the field, and a 116.3 passer rating with Tyreek Hill off of the field. If you think Tyreek was the MVP, I think you're wrong. I think Tua Tagovailoa is showing that if they took Tyreek away from him, he'd be even better. That's impressive. I'm
loving it. Listen, I'm right there with you. My Homer's Corner has nothing to do with football or anything else, and it kind of has something to do with myself. It's I want everybody to have a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, and to stay healthy.
So nice.
Exactly what I'm trying to do is my screen has come on and off over the last couple minutes as I've been fighting legitimately a head cold that I continue to fight. So, Bill,
you're gonna make me cry, right? It sounds so terrible. As he coughs. Anyway, I think what Ryan's trying to say is everybody have a fantastic holiday. Have a Merry Christmas. I think we can say that on here because that's what we celebrate. But obviously, Ryan has a beautiful sweater on. The Christmas is, I have no idea what the bottom says.
It's Christmas is canceled.
Oh, but he's talking about having a great Christmas. But no, thanks everybody for joining us. It's been a fantastic year. We'll be back next week. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. Ryan, are you okay? Are you going to be able to finish it out?
Yeah, I'll be able to finish it out. I appreciate everybody for putting up with what I had to deal with tonight. It has been one of my most difficult shows, but we have made it to the end.
Oh, my goodness. Look at my family's coming in here at the end just to give me the business.
Yeah, everybody's giving it to you, to me. I appreciate everybody who was involved on this show. Thanks for Michael and for you, Bill, holding it down while my computer crashed yet again. Thanks to everybody who was a part of the conversation. Remember, the next time you watch the show, if you have questions, leave them in the chat, and we'll read them on the air, and we'll answer those questions, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or otherwise. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of the show, watching the show, and I hope everybody, as Bill alluded to, has a great holiday, a great break if you get any time off from work, and a great Christmas, and we will be back next week with more football talk as we're going to be in fantasy football championship mode coming into next week. So for Baker Bill, for Michael Davis, it's your guy, Bully Ryan. We'll see you next week right here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns.